Welcome to the JCPS MTSS Modes of Instruction and Student Practice Toolkit training on the high yield practice of worked examples. I am Sarah Adams, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Zone 1.
And I'm Amy Downs, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Zone 2. Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you access to all the links for the activities and resources offered throughout the presentation. Here you see the components of the multi-tiered systems of support, also known as MTSS. As you can see, the multiple levels of support which MTSS provides for all learners easily aligns with our district's 6 systems for students. MTSS addresses academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development. It focuses on overall school improvement that is sustainable. This presentation encompasses several components, but most notably, teacher support through resources that can be used to accelerate student learning to be used during instruction, as well as teacher professional development. This concept map shows a visual of the departments in JCPS within MTSS. The MTSS Academic Department provides teachers with Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention and academic support. This department is led by Donna Lawson. The MTSS Behavior Department, led by Sandra Hensel, supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks, which includes PBIS and restorative practices. The goal of our department, the MTSS Engagement Department, is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. The supervisor and point of contact for our department is Dr. Naomi Ibrahim. The point of contact for each department is located in the concept map. 6 MTSS toolkits were created to provide resources for Tier 1 instructional practices to increase student engagement and reduce student behaviors. Here are the 6 MTSS toolkits. The website is linked on the image. Let's start with the definition of modes of instruction in student practice. Teachers need to be well-versed and fluent in implementing various modes of instruction. This includes providing a variety of opportunities in which students can practice skills being introduced in the lesson. Once students have acquired a basic knowledge and skill within any lesson, there is a critical need to supply opportunities for successful practice. However, there are keys to effective use and delivery of practice. These practice strategies enhance learning and improve the student's prognosis for future performance. In this session, we will learn the benefits of providing students with worked examples during instruction. As we do this, you will be able to reflect on how using a worked example can help students understand the content, process, or strategy they are learning. The success criteria for this high-yield practice is when the teacher provides a worked example to demonstrate the appropriate steps to solving a problem for students to use as a model. Now let's look at the definition of the high-yield practice worked examples. The concept of worked examples is much the same as that of showing students examples that have been solved as a means of reinforcing the problem-solving process. Worked examples can be used as models during instruction. This is essentially a practice to showcase what success looks like, and thus the goal could be for their own learning. Worked examples typically consist of a problem statement and the appropriate steps to the solution. The defense for providing such worked examples is that they reduce the cognitive load for students such that they concentrate on the processes that lead to the correct answer and not just providing an answer, which may or may not be correct. A typical worked example consists of 3 parts: an introductory phase, exposure to the example, an acquisition or training phase, and a test phase, assessing the learning. There are several benefits to using worked examples. It will reduce the cognitive load for students and will help students see and understand the process. When students see the value in the problem-solving process, they are more likely to transfer it to different situations. Seeing the process will help students productively struggle when working independently. Let's see the power of worked examples. Take a moment to solve this equation. Now, try solving the problem using a worked example. The problem on the right is a worked example and is similar to the problem you are solving. Here is the answer along with the process used to solve the problem you were asked to solve. How did having a worked example help you solve the problem?
Here are two examples of a worked example. Sometimes a worked example could be modeling one of the problems from a student's math book. Students can use this example to help them solve other problems. Here are two examples that a teacher has made into an anchor chart. Students can refer to the charts when needed. Worked examples can be used in content areas across the board. Here's an example of a way you can incorporate a worked example. This is an annotated claim, reasoning, and evidence task. As you are expecting students to perform this task, you could provide an annotated work example like the one shown. This chart explains the writing process. This could be used as a worked example. In the early phases of learning, you might also provide exemplar pieces next to each step. As you are scaffolding and students no longer need the visual models, you could just use the step-by-step process as the worked example for students to utilize. Now let's look at incorrect models and how they can be used. Begin with your learning intention. What do you want students to learn? Think about one misconception students may have and create an incorrect work example that includes the misconception you identified. The point is to draw students' attention to a misconception that you have noticed many students making. Once you have created your incorrect work example, let students know that the model you are showing them is incorrect and it does contain an error. Begin by prompting students' thinking with questions. For example, why did the strategy not work? Be specific. Then have students work to correct the example. Using incorrect models can benefit students by serving as a natural review of concepts. It allows students to examine and explain why a procedure is incorrect. Incorrect models help students become more proficient at analyzing their own work for mistakes. Here are a couple of incorrect worked examples. In closing, pause and take a moment to reflect on how using a worked example can help students to understand the content, process, or strategy they are learning. In any classroom, the teacher should be aware of certain considerations regarding the environment or learning community that they are helping to create. Knowing the backgrounds or cultural norms for students within the classroom will lead to more engaging and effective instructional practice. This culturally responsive approach should be utilized to reach as many students as possible in the classroom. When using worked examples in classrooms with ECE students, teachers should integrate scaffolded supports that increase student practice along with metacognitive strategies that allow for students to become more fluent in a specific skill so that they can use the skill correctly in future problem solving. Opportunities for frequent practice are needed for ECE students to become fluent in a given skill. When considering project-based learning, teachers should align instructional strategies to student learning needs. It is important to identify instructional approaches that will support students in understanding foundational knowledge related to learning outcomes. Discover what instructional approaches support students in connecting and contrasting ideas, as well as which ones support students in applying the learning outcomes to project expectations. Ensure there is time for independent practice, which is critical for retention. In order to help with implementing worked examples in your classroom, we have provided you with the Plan, Do, Study, Act tool, which is linked on this slide. During an upcoming PLC, be sure to discuss ways to implement this high-yield practice in your instruction. Thank you for joining us to learn more about worked examples. For more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high-yield practices, please visit our website.